goes. This is called the Regal. Let me take this off. From the booth at the food court, Jeannie saw one of the rink regulars skating backward, crouched down a little on one knee, pretending to ask a girl to marry him. One arm held out for balance and the other flat in front of him, hand open, pumping back and forth as if struggling to keep his heart from exploding out of his chest. Jeannie's friend Crystal chopped, smoothed, and shaped a mound of pink pixie sticks powder with her school ID. Jeannie watched her snort the candy with a rolled-up dollar bill, fanned her hand in front of her face. She said shit, shit, shit as tears plopped into the leftover dust. Some of the things Crystal did were for attention. She seemed to lack the inner voice that held Jeannie back from flashing cars, kissing strangers, or trying to hitchhike, all things she'd seen Crystal do. Crystal pointed at Jeannie with her rolled-up dollar. Jeannie, this place sucks, and now you're acting like a downer. Come on, it's Friday, fun day. Crystal knew all about Jeannie's mom, but Jeannie wasn't ready to even think about the latest, much less tell anyone. After living in Colorado for almost half a year, she finally knew her way around the town, had a friend, felt at home with her half-sister Heather. She told Crystal she'd heard her mother speak, actually try and say Jeannie's name. She'd have to act happy, and she wasn't sure she could. Her mom's friend Cindy panted through the answering machine earlier in the day, 1,000 miles away. Your mom was talking today about you, little girl. Listen. Static, white noise, muffled voices, and then a sound you hadn't heard in close to a year. Her mother, well, the new version of her mother, had learned to form her thoughts into words. Jeannie? Jeannie? Her tongue sounded as if it filled up her mouth. And then Cindy, she's almost ready, been working so dang hard. You may even be able to start the 11th grade at home. A miracle, a true... The beep cut Cindy off and Jeannie erased the message. The fear of riding the bus back to Oklahoma, back to who her mother may or may not be, chased her out of the house. Jeannie needed to forget the message, how little control she had over her life. She had to keep moving forward, to push everything away, to convince herself this night was the only night, that no more were coming. She hit Crystal in the forehead with a wadded up piece of candy wrapper. I like the Regal, and I think you secretly do too, Jeannie said. Shit, you would. Oklahoma's just a dust bowl land with trailers blown over with tornadoes. The Regal's probably like Disneyland to you. I've never been in a tornado. That's what you say, Prudy, but I bet your trailer's tipped over with its roof gone, and that's the real reason you moved here. Homeless. Crystal had always made fun of Oklahoma, of Jeannie, of everyone really, and Jeannie wasn't sure why tonight she felt so defensive. She didn't want to. Actually, my house was an abandoned covered wagon, Crystal. I wore a bonnet, made stone soup. She had tried to match Crystal's sarcastic tone to be funny, but Crystal didn't laugh. I'm gonna pretend you weren't just a bitch to me. You need to liven up. Mike's taking us to a real party tonight. He wants you to kiss his friend. I was just joking. Maybe I will kiss his friend. Maybe I'll kiss all of his friends. We'll see. I told him not to get his hopes up, that you probably still play with your Barbies. Probably come to the Regal without me to actually roller skate. Crystal liked to say that roller skating was for little kids, child molesters, creepy old people. But Jeannie loved to watch the rink from the booth, even if she never joined in. The slow dance, the backward skate, all the rink DJ's games, like the limbo and the chicken dance. The rink DJ was the Regal's mascot. He wore silk shirts patterned with things like red lips, flamingos, and martini glasses. He made offensive sound effects into his microphone and waggled his big spotlight around the floor, using the bright light to linger on people who'd fallen, or kissing couples, and he'd say, "Another one bites the dust," or "Look at that sex machine." Jeannie never admitted it to Crystal, but she did want to skate out on the rink sometimes. She'd go to the bathroom or get a drink from the water fountain just for the practice. Crystal said she hated coming to Jeannie had been there when Crystal's mom banned him from their apartment. Crystal pleaded, said she was mature for her age. Her mom interrupted, her voice as strained as her neck. She'd screamed, "You're fucking 15 and he's 20-fucking-1, Crystal. That's what they call statutory rape." "Haven't you heard?" Crystal said. "You can't rape the willing." Jeannie had accidentally gasped then from her spot behind Crystal. Crystal's mom muttered something and then slapped Crystal hard. She'd had him marked the whole day. Now, Mike picked them up each Friday when he got off work at the Coors plant. Even after he changed out of his work clothes, he smelled like something that had almost caught fire. Jeannie liked Mike, how he always knew what he wanted, how he walked around leaned back with his eyes barely open. He drove a white town car he called his Queen, the dark blue velvet seats worn down to the threads. And when he gripped the shifter, the 8-ball tattooed on his hand stretched out smooth. His stereo made the dash rattle. From the back seat, Jenny'd see his hands move between Crystal's thighs. He'd take them to his friend Conrad's house to parties or back to the apartment he shared with his grandmother. While he and Crystal were in his room, Jeannie'd sit back on the small fuzzy couch. She'd watch Mork and Mindy or Perfect Strangers, surrounded by Mike's grandmother's things, tins of peppermints, her walker, a rolled up crossword, the crochet needle she'd leave on the side table, positioned for their next move. When he dropped them off in the parking lot next to Crystal's building, he'd smile and tilt his head up, his way of saying hello or goodbye. Mike would be coming soon. He'd pick them up, take them to his party. Jeannie reassured herself with what was coming next. All night she'd been antsy, forgetting to respond when Crystal said something, shifting from one side of the booth to the other, getting up only to sit right back down. Crystal said, "You need to chill out. Getting with guys is no big deal." Jeannie didn't argue, let Crystal believe she'd figured out the cause of the problem. She draped her overshirt across the table and skate-walked the stretch of the indoor-outdoor carpet to the girls' bathroom, and Crystal followed. The cold stall doors wore the dents of roller skate wheels and messages scratched into their chipped teal paint. "Bethany Mahoney sucks fat cock. I was here, but now I'm not. I sat right here and smoked some pot. I'm writing this to make a point. Life's a bitch, so smoke a joint." "Hey, did I ever tell you that girl who splashed out a baby in the stall you're in?" Crystal asked. "Just seen something. I heard there was blood everywhere, even the ceiling." Through the crack of the stall, Jeannie saw Crystal in front of the wall-length mirror, hairspray her bangs. Even though she knew there wouldn't be any, Jeannie checked the tiles around her feet for blood. "Gross. Did the baby die?" "Nah, I never saw Justine after that, though. Think they sent her away for being psycho." Crystal laughed. "Can you imagine being that kid? Where were you born, little Johnny?" She paused. "In the toilet of the Regal." "Oh, that's so mean. Hopefully no one tells him," Jeannie said. "What? It's just the truth, and the truth's the nicest thing there is." Without asking permission, Crystal tucked Jeannie's shirt up under her sports bra and said, "Much better. You have a figure, don't waste it." She grabbed her eyeliner and lipstick out of her mini backpack and quickly applied them to Jeannie's face. "Can you at least try and be cool to Mike's friend tonight? Mike's really worried you're gonna chicken out." Jeannie could imagine meeting the guy, maybe even kissing him, but what if he wanted to do more? The only boy she'd ever kissed was Kevin Gussie, her older neighbor back in Oklahoma. What if I don't know what to do? "Hang on, let me pee." "I'll teach you, don't worry." Jeannie wished girl things came easy to her, like they seemed to for Crystal. She knew everything about how to be pretty, plucking eyebrows, what kind of clothes went together, cute underwear, what kinds of soap to use. If she'd never met Crystal, she'd probably still be wearing sweats and a slight unibrow. She tried to look like a girl who knew about boys in the mirror. She pushed her lips out, sucked her stomach in, arched her back, but instead of feeling confident, the pose reminded her of a game she played as a child, smiling into the mirror, holding a candle like it was a microphone, saying, thank you all." Her pretending she was the winner of Miss America or Star Search. Her mom would interview her or announce her song choice. The memory came fast, and Jeannie rolled to the edge of the stalls. If she kept moving, she could think of something else. Crystal came out and said, "Ew, were you spying on me?" Crystal wanted her to laugh, but she couldn't. "Jeannie, you know more guys would like you if you laughed every once in a while. Every guy likes to see a girl smile. That's going to be lesson number 1 for tonight. Laugh a lot, okay?" The night her mom had the stroke, Jeannie had been watching Star Search. During the end, when Ed McMahon began to reveal the winners, she'd heard a thud from the back of the house. She'd muted the TV to listen, but heard nothing. She'd finished the show, drank some milk, turned out the lights, and then she went to say goodnight to her mom. Jeannie found her there on the floor, half in, half out of her yellow robe, her eyes open, her breath like a slobbery woodwind, a wet whistle being gently blown. Jeannie'd been too afraid to touch her. Instead, she'd called her name again and again, asking, was she okay, until she'd finally accepted her mother wasn't going to answer. Jeannie called 911, then knelt down and closed her mother's robe. Now when she thought of the time she'd wasted, she knew her hesitation was probably why her mom was taking so long to get better. The doctor said the damage was immediate, but Jeannie knew if she'd acted faster, things would be different. Her guilt was always with her, behind her eyelids, in every daydream, and the last thing she thought of before sleep. "Are you even listening, Jeannie?" Crystal was in the middle of describing how to French kiss. Jeannie was trying. "Never put my whole tongue in the guy's mouth. Got it." Crystal said, "You look bored. I'm going to get a drink." The Regal was hot and smoky. Some of the haze came from the high-powered fog machines, but most breezed around the building from the smoking section of the cafe court. The smokers sat against the back wall. They were wild, so different than the rough kids in Oklahoma. The colorful hair, pierced faces, studded leather jackets, looked so strange paired with roller skates. They dragged cigarette after cigarette down to the nub, and despite the huge silver floor fans placed around the concession area, Jeannie knew her throat would burn for days. Her last day in Oklahoma, her mom's friend Cindy had driven her to the closest Greyhound stop, a Hardee's parking lot in El Reno. Cindy said, "Well, Jeannie Joe, looks like these are your last few moments in the land of the Red Man, at least for a while. Wish you could stay with me. Work so goddamn much, though. Bet you'll be up with blood in Colorado. Your sister seemed so happy to have you. Felt funny calling a number so far away." Jeannie hadn't been able to hold still that day either. Every time she'd stop moving, she'd remember how awful she felt to leave her mom at the rehab center, the town she knew every corner to, and even Cindy, who'd been there her whole life. But she was aware, too, that she was escaping. A mother who had just a few months earlier worked at the bank, made birthday cakes on the side, played bingo on Fridays, smoked in her bedroom after she thought Jeannie was asleep. And now she couldn't move part of her body, speak coherently, or even go to the bathroom on her own. Before she boarded the bus, Cindy hugged her, said, "Make sure you lock the bathroom door if you have to use it on that bus, because I've heard the perverts will follow in right behind you, and Lord knows we do not need you being attacked on the Greyhound. Sit behind the driver, but don't talk to him neither. I peeked in and he looks foreign. Could be Hawaiian or some islander type, but either way, keep your distance, Jeannie. They're scouting for green parts." Jeannie waited for someone to grab her or push her into the bathroom, but the only dramatic event involved an elderly man who'd fallen asleep in the locked bathroom and wouldn't wake up. The bus driver had to do a wellness check when they stopped in Shamrock, Texas. The bus shook into Colorado after dark, and Jeannie could see the outlines of the mountains. Heather had been standing to the side of her battered Grand Dam. Jeannie wouldn't have known her without the sign that read Jeannie Petefish in big red letters. They shared the same father, who neither of them knew, and had only been around each other a few times on the account of their paternal grandmother. The only memory Jeannie had of her father she wasn't sure was real. A barrel-shaped shadow against a pink and yellow sky, bowed legs, hands with big knots and black grease in the cracks. Maybe a jean jacket. She thought he'd smelled like the air during wheat harvest. Dusty heat. Jeannie never seen the rink so packed. The lockers that lined the back walls were nearly invisible behind the crowds. She'd started to sweat, feel hot, closed in. She wanted to get up from the booth, but knew their seat would be snatched up fast. Crystal bent over the concession counter and smacked the guy who sold the food. He flicked the ice from his cup into her face and tried to drop some down the front of her shirt. He looked older than Mike, wore an earring, chain wallet, his long frizzy hair smashed under a hairnet. Crystal slid back in the booth, laughing. Her breath smelled sweet. "Here's a slushie from my new boyfriend, Darren," she said. Jeannie took a drink but couldn't taste the flavor. "Rule number 3 is how to act if he puts his hands up your shirt or down your pants," Crystal said. The noise level seemed to rise and sounded as if there were seashells up against Jeannie's ears. "Crystal, I think I have to leave soon. I have to go home," she said. Crystal glared, crossed her arms, folding them into her chest. "You can't, I promised Mike." Jeannie wanted to explain, to tell her about the call, to say she didn't know how she could go back to Oklahoma now, but she couldn't control her breathing, couldn't get her mouth to open. She needed air. She was afraid. She struggled to speak. Her heart whooped hard, sweat dripped from her temples. She thought she might be suffocating. Crystal asked what was her deal, but seriously, was she okay? Crystal stood and steadied herself. She had to move, to get outside, to get fresh air. She pushed her way through the people and used the carpeted ledge that circled the rink to keep steady. She tried to say, "Excuse me," but what came out of her mouth sounded like grunts. Jeannie thought, "I might die here." She reached the end of the ledge and faced the mouth of the rink. She tried to turn back but couldn't. She hesitated, unsure. The skaters, a whizzing pack in unison. Her body pulsed with the music. The DJ's voice blared from the speakers. "Okay, folks, now that you're all razzed up, let's take it to the next level. The groove is in the heart, people." He said the next hour would be funky, that they should have made platform roller skates. The fog machine blasted puffs of cool haze, and for a while the air smelled like something besides perfume and nachos. The strobe spunked now instead of mesmerized. The Regal transformed. She wanted them to tell her mother about the Regal. How could she describe this place to her? Jeannie would call, and her mother's words would be warbled, her new language of struggling consonants. But even if she couldn't speak, she could listen. She'd understand if Jeannie said, "Remember how I loved the merry-go-round? The Regal's like that." The lopsided merry-go-round made of grooved sheet metal sat in the middle of the park. She'd play after school while her mother finished her shift. The older kids who smoked by their water fountain would give her a push if she asked, but when the park was empty, she'd hold one of the welded bars tight, run fast, push hard from the dirt. The metal shook and rang when she jumped on. She'd lie on her back with her legs dangled over the side, and she'd walk herself around in circles. Sometimes she'd spin around one spin at a time. She'd never worried her mom wouldn't be there. She'd just watch the stars come out. Sometimes she'd hear sound, footsteps, her name being called, but she liked best when her mother's hands thudded against the bars to make the ride stop and signaled she'd come to take Jeannie home. She didn't think, just pumped hard with her legs out onto the smooth floor. The lights were different, rotating, flashing down, a permanent nightscape. She was going so fast she'd fall if she made the wrong move, but she could breathe again. The faster she went, the more her heart slowed down. She moved her hand to scratch her cheek, and her body was still. How could she be in slow motion and flying at the same time? She looked to the faces around her, serious, dreamy. They all seemed to accept what Jeannie hadn't. They were standing still, as the walls and floor of the Regal whirled around them.